Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic Godzilla vs. Kong figure. And last time I reviewed some Hiya stuff, I was told that I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly. However, I can't find the comments that corrected me. So if you are a native Chinese speaker, you can let me know how to pronounce that, and I will try to correct it in my brain going forward. So yeah, this is Monkey from Monkey vs. Lizard, and I'm going to refer to him as that because last time I did, so many people got mad that he's an ape, not a monkey. I know, but it's also a fictional character, and Monkey vs. Lizard sounds funny. Anyway, this is their version. It's kind of like a competitor to SH MonsterArts a little bit less expensive, a little bit bigger. Is it worth it? Let's find out. Let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 16.5 centimeters. That's going to make him pretty close to 6.5 inches. He's got a little bit of size on him. Here he is up against everybody's favorite Darwin. As you can see, they're pretty close to the same size. So there you go. And let's go ahead and look at the aesthetic after we do a question of the day. Super easy question, not for this movie, but just in general, in the Monsterverse, not the new Monsterverse, all of the entire Monsterverse. Monkey or Lizard, which one would you pick? For me, it has to be Lizard. Lizard has way better movies and like villains and stuff, and Monkey has not had the greatest run of movies if you ask me. Okay, so let's talk about the aesthetic on this guy. I think it's an overall nice look. It has a lot of dry brushing. It's kind of like a grayish brown plastic with the lighter brown dry brushing for the majority of the fur, and I think that's perfectly acceptable. I think that's fine. For his smooth bits, there's a little bit of dry brushing, again I was going to say airbrushing, and so that looks really nice. You can see the lighter brown kind of making his skin look leathery, and it has a little bit of depth there, so that's good. And then we do have the painted scars, so that's decent, like that. And then the face, not a whole lot going on there, but they did paint the eyes relatively well. So yeah, I think that's acceptable. I think at the $50 price point, maybe a little bit more detail would be nice, like a little bit of a wash or finer sculpt for the fur, that kind of thing. But I think this is perfectly acceptable. It's just not incredibly impressive at the $50 price point. But again, it's a 6.5 inch figure that's got a decent spread of accessories, and it's fairly bulky, so we'll see at the end if it's worth it. But so far, I'm pleased. So I'll give the aesthetic an 8 out of 10. It looks pretty good. And while we're talking about the aesthetic, we're going to slide over into the accessories. Also, he has 3 heads. The neutral head you already saw, and then we also have an angry head and a yelling head, and I do think those are sculpted really well. Again, we probably could use a little bit more detail here and there, but they look pretty good, particularly the open mouth. There's a nice wash going on in there. Brings it to life, so I like that. We have some hands, so we have the relaxed hands that come on in the package, then we get some fist hands, some gripping hands, and some most definitely not karate chop, but most definitely will be used as karate chop hands. And then we do have his Godzilla scale axe weapon, which is well enough done. So I think that's a good spread. I'll go 9 out of 10. I don't know what else you would really want for King Kong accessories other than those. That's a good spread. 3 heads, a bunch of hands, a weapon. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Again, for $50, like, let's be realistic here. Some Marvel Legends are half that. Some are like a lot closer to 60% of that price, and they're pretty crap. So I'm fairly okay with this. And then the MonsterArts figures are really expensive. So far I'm thinking we're on a pretty good track here, but let's see how the articulation is. I do think it's going to suffer just a bit, but we'll see. Okay, so the head, it's on a double ball peg. It can look up, but of course you get the weird chin shelf thing. Can't really do anything about that. It does look down. It's not too bad. You get a little bit of a shelf back here. I think they could have just finessed it a little bit. And the reason why is the ball peg that they use for the bottom part. So we have a double ball peg. This one's okay. You don't need a ton of range on the top. But in the bottom, in the neck ball peg, they did what Marvel Legends tend to do, and that is to not have a big enough ball. You really need a bigger ball relative to the size of the peg. And as you can see, hopefully you can see in there, I think you can, the opening is almost the exact same size as the peg. You get very little range. So you need a much bigger ball and a much bigger opening so that that peg can really crank in different directions. That's how you want to do that. This guy, he doesn't have that, so very limited range. For the shoulders, I believe the shoulders are straight up standard ball hinges. I can't tell, I can't quite get in there, but it looks you're not gonna be able to tell, but right here I can kind of see the disc, I think. So anyway, you get your hinge, it goes up to horizontal, so that's okay. Problem is it doesn't go down very far, it's a very limited range. You're gonna get your rotation, and even then, when there's some space, you still can't bring the arm farther forward, so we do have more limitation than we need. I think it's because they just didn't, yeah, you can see that in there now. They just didn't cut away enough material for that hinge. So if you wanted to, you could trim this some, carefully of course, and then you'd be able to get better range out of it, but you cannot bring his arm forward or down, obviously, respectively, because of that. So that's a bit of a bummer. You do get a bicep swivel, that's fine. The elbow joint, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. They did a relatively good job of hiding the joints, at least, so that's good. But I can't tell exactly what engineering is going on. But you do get to straighten the arm pretty far, and then you get a little bit better than 90, and it doesn't look bad, so I think that's okay. Now for the wrists, they look pretty goofy because of the way it's sculpted, and they do have double ball pegs, so they have decent enough range, but they needed more fur to hide that gap. That just looks weird. Don't care for that. All right, for the torso, I can't tell if it's a single or a double. That's as far back as it goes, so it's not very far. He's mostly just upright with a slight lean, and then going forward, that's as far as that goes. So again, very limited range, unfortunately. Side to side is not bad, that's all right. It's a little bit loose, and then you get your rotation, so that's okay. So yeah, they definitely could have gotten a whole lot more range out of this. It's a very basic design, very basic engineering. Also, I'll bet you could trim some plastic and get some good range out of that. For the hips, we have basic ball sockets going on there, so you're gonna be able to see exactly how that works. That goes out to the side that far. Going forward, we don't have much clearance here, so let's see. That's as far forward as they're gonna go without going out to the side. If you wanna go farther forward, you go out to the side, then you get that range. But because there's no true thigh swivel built in, like it's there, but because his legs are so oblong, you don't really get much. It's gonna be pretty limited. The knees appear to be designed the same way as the elbows, so they do go straight. And then you can bend them to just better than 90. And again, they look pretty good, so I'll take that, that's fine. And then lastly, we have our ankles, which I do believe, yeah, they're just, I think they're double, but there's some kind of ball peg, which means very, very limited range. Very limited, basically just adjustments. So he's a little bit too limited if you ask me. Articulation on this guy is gonna get a 6. And that's probably generous. Actually, I'm gonna go lower, 5 out of 10. Not being able to bring the arms down or forward, the hips being limited, the torso being limited, shoulders being limited, head being limited, ankles. Yeah, there's a hit. Everything's too limited, really. So that's a bummer. Is it enough? I don't know. You're gonna have to decide for yourself. For me, I think at 50 bucks, it's reasonable, but it's gonna pull down the score. I think paints are good enough. I think accessory is definitely good enough, but that articulation, especially for him being a gorilla, he really should be able to pose, and he just can't, and it's decisions that didn't need to be made because it wouldn't have cost him any more to trim a little bit of extra plastic here and there. So I'm going to give it a final rating of only a 7 out of 10. Could have been a lot higher, but that articulation just pulls it back too far. So you guys can let me know how you feel about that, but that's where I'm standing on it. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. In the meantime, keep collecting.